And we're going to turn to Lita Olmsted. She's lived near the Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore in Michigan for nearly 7 years. But the Northern Michigan woman says that she's never seen anything like this. Let's show you the pictures. This is what Lita found on her walk one day. Dozens of ice boulders scattered on the water's edge right there in Lake Michigan. So Lita is here this morning to join us via Skype. Thanks so much for joining us. We find this so fascinating. Describe what you saw there.
Basically they were just giant, perfectly round balls of ice that were bigger than basketballs, some of them like beach ball size.
Have you ever seen anything like this before?
No, I've never seen anything like it, and most of the people who have lived here their whole life said they've never seen anything like it either, so it's really cool.
Now, did you go up and touch them? Were they heavy? Did you try to lift them?
Yeah, one of the pictures, I'm trying to lift it up, and I can't even budge it at all. It may be frozen, but I'm pretty sure they're probably like 75 pounds. So.
Wow.
That's really fascinating. I mean, the pictures are just bizarre, kind of otherworldly. And you said you hadn't seen this before. Did you do any detective work once you saw these? Did you call the local meteorologist or try to figure out what you're looking at?
I Googled like ice boulders and round ice balls, and I guess it had happened in Grand Haven about 3 years ago. But they weren't to this scale. They were more like softball size. And then I just posted it on the local 7 and 4 news site, and it blew up.
It really did. I Googled it too. There's really not much out there on these. They're not very common. You're pretty lucky, I think, to have found them. Did you get to see a cross-section of any of them? I'm curious what it looked like on the inside.
No, that's funny though, because my best friend actually was like, let's go cut them in half. So I'm assuming it's just sand and ice, but.
Yeah, I guess the question is, are these still there? Are they sticking around? Is it basically as long as it's cold, it looks like they would stay?
Yeah, they're sticking around because there's probably like 25 feet of solid ice chunks between them and the water, so they won't get washed away.
Tonight, an East Texan is sharing her story of seeing a fireball in the sky, believed to have been caused by a Chinese rocket.
This map shows the trajectory of the rocket as it passed overhead today around 3:15 this morning. The American Meteor Society received numerous reports of a bright object that passed over Texas and Louisiana during that time. New tonight, we met with an East Texas woman who witnessed that fireball, as well as a professor who explains that sightings like this may be more common than you think.
Shannon Beeson couldn't sleep last night and just happened to step outside at the right moment.
When I walked out, I saw what looked like fireworks, just like multiple streams of fire, I guess.
The National Meteor Society says what she saw was this: a Chinese rocket body falling back into the Earth's atmosphere.
And there were probably 10 to 12 shooting up into the sky, and then 3 of them came, more overhead until they just burned away.
The rocket was used to launch a satellite in May of 2012 from China, and Wednesday morning fell back into the atmosphere. Louisiana DPS trooper Clifton Meyer sent us this picture. At the bottom of the screen are lights on the ground, but he says what is inside the red circle could be the rocket. The National Meteor Society says more than 24 people in Texas and Louisiana reported seeing a fireball in the sky.
At first I thought it was a plane crash, and then I realized it was high enough in the sky that it most likely wasn't that, so then I was just unsure what it was.
The excitement over this begs the question, just how often does this happen? The easy answer is a lot.
There's a lot of space junk up there.
Robert Parrish says that NORAD is tracking about 19,000 objects orbiting the Earth right now, and about a ton of it falls every year.
Orbits are not perfect. Okay, they don't stay into exactly 120 miles into space. They decay over time, and that's due to lots and lots of different things, but ultimately it's due to gravity.
Beeson says she doesn't expect to see anything like this again.
I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime. It's definitely one of the coolest things I've seen.
Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 4 for this news report today. My website is ggnonline.com, and on YouTube, DDarko 2012 and DDarko 2013. I'm ready to go. Scientists discover Russian meteor origin. So, kind of interested to see what they said. And what did they say? Well, actually, they said that its elliptical, low inclination orbit indicates a solar system origin, most likely from the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Okay, well, with that being said, could a comet hit Mars in 2014? So this was followed by that article from the 25th. A recently discovered comet will make an uncomfortably close planetary flyby next year, but this time it's not Earth that's in the cosmic crosshairs. This comet will buzz Mars on October 19th, 2014. Then we have this: men and women, preferably married, wanted for expedition to Mars. So I think they're discriminating, aren't they? They're asking for men and women. That's gender discrimination. I think NASA's going to be up for a lawsuit, or whoever's doing this. So it says a nonprofit foundation wants to recruit a man and woman, possibly a married couple, for a bare-bones 501-day journey to Mars and back that would start in less than 5 years. That's the project. It costs up to $1 billion and would be privately financed by donations and sponsorships. They say it leaves little time to take advantage of the rare planetary alignment that would allow a craft to loop around Mars, coming as close as about 150 miles to the planet's surface before returning to Earth. It says the launch window for the mission opens on January 5th, 2018. The next opportunity won't be until 2031. So this individual said, we can just barely every 15 years fly by Mars with the systems we have right now. Lost continent found under Indian Ocean. So what I'm getting here, dude, is about the weaponizing of space. So, you know, with all that being said, just remember that. Lost continent found under Indian Ocean. Scientists said Sunday, this is from the 25th, that they have found traces of a microcontinent hidden underneath the Indian Ocean island. So, it says it was probably formed around 61 to 83 million years ago after Madagascar split from India but eventually broke up and became smothered by thick lava deposits. Life thrives near deepest spot on the Earth. From February 23rd, clams and other creatures have been discovered at deep sea around vents near the Marianas Trench, the deepest spot on the Earth's surface, surprising the scientists who found them. They were talking about these hydrothermal vents. It says here, in addition to clams, the team saw or collected various deep-dwelling sea anemones and snails, and at least one type of comb jelly known for producing shimmering bioluminescence. And it says here at least one crab that has long-reaching front pincers. Life has been discovered beneath the Antarctic ice. So this is kind of older, from the 12th. But it goes on here. It says hundreds of meters below the Antarctic's Ross ice shelf, sealed off from the outside world. Scientists who said they would explore its subglacial depths. So this would be the first people in history to discover living organisms in the alien lakes at the bottom of the world, which is thought to harbor conditions similar to those of Jupiter's moon Europa and Saturn's moon. Then from McClatchy, we have ex-wildlife chief warns of climate change in South Carolina. So following revelations, the state wildlife department has failed to release a major climate change report. The agency's former chief said the department should be leading efforts to brace South Carolina for the consequences of global warming, saying that the Earth's rising temperatures will undoubtedly affect the state's landscape and wildlife in coming years. It says, I would like to have seen the DNR be a leader. He says we have experts in the agency to assess climate change. It goes on here, says that his comments come days after the state newspaper reported that a team of DNR scientists had voiced serious concerns about climate change in South Carolina, although the report has been under wraps since this individual, Frampton, announced he was leaving the agency in 2011. So once he left, it kind of died. Collapsing consensus. Another German meteorology site wonders about global temperature stagnation. Last week, German meteorologists openly wondered what happened to all the warming, pointing out that Germany was suffering from its 5th consecutive colder than normal winter, a record. Earlier this month, this renowned meteorologist announced that global warming was finished and that cooling was ahead for the next decades. Like I said, the Russians think 2014 is the year where we'll really start to be seeing the ice age kick in. Last month, this German meteorologist dismissed again global warming catastrophism. And just days ago, yet another German meteorology site questioned global warming in a piece titled Global Warming Stagnates, Guessing the Causes, saying since 1998 the global mean temperature has not risen significantly, while the global temperatures rose by about 0.5 degrees Celsius from the 70s until the end of the 90s. It has stagnated for the last 15 years, though at a high level. It surprised a lot of experts who are now looking for causes, such as weakened solar activity or because of huge emissions of aerosols over Asia, global dimming, or chemtrails. I don't know, because remember we talked about, we looked at that Wells-Bach cloud seeding patent. They actually said that in the report following that actually that creates warming, these aerosols. It doesn't cool it like they say. when they call it geoengineering to combat climate change. Over 650, my theory is that they're spraying to combat the coming ice age. So there's so many reasons why they're spraying. I mean, one of the biggest thing is just blocking out all of the high-tech imagery from satellites from different countries and stuff like that. And an indirect effect of that is modifying the weather. Over 650 snow records set in the USA this week. Another wonky surface station located. Says, goes on here, the National Weather Service responds about the station issue. Almost 60% of the contiguous USA is covered in snow. So while pundits spin attempts at linking snowfall in the northeast USA to global warming, much like they do in summer during the heat waves, we find that nature is just taunting them with snow as far as south as the Mexico border and Arizona, and there is more to come. It says in the next week we may see snow in Florida. During the last week, 652 new snow records were set in the continental United States. You could check out the map below. 57% has snow cover. The record furthest south in Arizona has 6.3 inches of snowfall, beat the old 2-inch record going all the way back to 1996. And there's just another picture of it. U.S. economy grew slowest since 2011. The U.S. economy barely grew in the fourth quarter, although a slightly better performance in exports and fewer imports led the government to scratch an early estimate that showed an economic contraction. GDP expanded at 0.1% annual rate, missing the 0.5% gain forecasted by analysts. The growth rate was the slowest since the first quarter in 2011 and is far from what is needed to fuel a faster drop in the unemployment rate. So, the biggest way to fix that, of course, is eugenics. So I think that's another reason for the chemtrails is reduced population numbers. ViaMat to stop vaulting gold outside of the United States for American Swiss-based companies that will no longer offer to store gold outside the U.S. to private clients with potential U.S. tax liability starting in the middle of 2013. They attributed the decision to regulatory changes without specifying exactly what regulations led to the decision. Australian government to seize cash from inactive bank accounts, and the more desperate, bankrupt, and degenerate government becomes, the more they will be likely to seize the assets of their citizenry. It says this move by Australia is very concerning, but probably just the beginning. So recently they wrote about how the U.S. government is already looking at interfering in the management of retirement accounts. The legislation was rushed through the Parliament, and what was this? Australia, the government will, from May 31st, be able to transfer all money from accounts that have not been used for 3 years into their own revenues. Italy is voting against austerity, leaving EU in turmoil. Turmoil, crisis. Sky is going to fall. Fears that deadlock will lengthen Italy's 2-year recession and spill over into the rest of the Eurozone. In Greece, as austerity ignites masses, elites turn to Imperial Stormtroopers. The usually reserved waitress at our favorite Greek-owned Sunday breakfast place approached us in dismay, said her daughter and son-in-law were escaping Greece for the U.S. Even middle-class professionals were finding themselves digging in the garbage for food to eat, she said. You cannot imagine just how bad it is in Greece, she told us, with tears in her eyes. Squeezed to the point of total economic and psychological collapse, Greeks are responding with desperate measures to the domestic and international elites who have destroyed their country. They are getting restless and violent. There have been more than a dozen armed incidents in the past couple of weeks, and matters look to get far worse. A former Greek career diplomat said he expects the explosion to occur sooner rather than later. Says it'll be sizable tax bills coming due that people simply cannot pay. Multinational drug companies hold Greece hostage by denying shipments of medicine, 90% supply reductions, and citizens in near panic. Says people are standing in lines for hours to get prescriptions filled, and when they learn the drugs aren't available, there's a lot of screaming and shouting. Greek citizens are in a state of desperation and anger. We have reached a tragic point, says one pharmacist. So every problem caused by collusion between Big Pharma and Big Government can apparently be solved by deepening collusion between Big Pharma and Big Government. At least we're led to believe that. Greek ex-mayor jailed for life for embezzlement. Former mayor of Greece's second city says here, and 2 other officials have been jailed for life for embezzling almost 18 million euros of public funds. Where did they go? These officials who had illegal Swiss bank accounts. Lastly, we covered this already, black water in Greece. Fears of coup as mercenaries drafted for guarding government overseeing police. So the situation's getting worse, and the mercenaries are there to protect the government and help the police. Thank you.